Welcome back. Now, before the break, we spoke with Senator Van Hollen about the COVID relief package and the president's handling, or should we say mishandling, of it. Now, in this segment, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the latest confusion about voting, specifically mail-in voting, and the president seemingly picking sides, red and blue. Also, foreign policy. We'll talk about a host of controversies just seem to be popping up for this White House and this president. You saw the story today that military leaders were so concerned that the president, when we had ratcheted tensions with North Korea and Iran, could actually go to the nuclear option, that they tried not to present it as an option. And also they even alerted our counterparts in the aforementioned countries. I know how you feel about this, or at least I think I do. I'm curious, without naming names, take me into the cloakroom. Are Republicans scared as to where this moving line is, as to where he's capable of going, especially as we're getting close to an election?
Well, I think it's fair to say, based on conversations I've had, that there are many Republican senators who are very worried and very scared about the instability of this president, the fear that this president could do something, crazy. And that should make everybody worry that he is the person in the country who does have his finger on the nuclear trigger. He has that control. And when you've got somebody who acts so sort of out of anger or out of just pure gut instincts, his feeling of whether he's been, insulted or something, that is a very scary place to be. I will say it's also a problem that Republican senators, knowing that this president poses that kind of risk to the country, have really not spoken out. Maybe one, sometimes two, but it is a dereliction of duty for them not to speak out when they know that the occupant of the White House, President Trump, poses this kind of risk to the country.
Well, to that point, I know every day there's a fire hose of new scandals or shocking stories like the one we just discussed, but please tell me we're going to get to the bottom, or you guys are going to get to the bottom, as to whether or not my White House knew that Russians potentially were paying bounties to kill American soldiers through the Taliban. And through 8 conversations, we didn't even raise the subject. Are we going to get to the bottom about who knew what and when and whether it was credible or not, that intel?
Well, we have to get to the bottom of this. And you referenced that Axios interview earlier. Another part of that interview had the President of the United States really dismissing this story about the Russians paying bounties to kill American soldiers in Afghanistan. He tried to say it was an issue that had not been brought to his attention, when we know from public reporting that it was in his briefing book. He knows that people felt it was an urgent and important enough matter to include it in his briefing book. Now, apparently he doesn't read that. He doesn't take an interest in it. And we also learned that in his subsequent phone calls with Vladimir Putin that came about after this story became a headline story, he never even raised it. He never even raised with Vladimir Putin the intelligence about how Russia was paying bounties to the Taliban to kill American soldiers. It's outrageous, and that's why you've seen families of American soldiers really in shock that the commander-in-chief refused to confront Vladimir Putin with this information or even ask him about it.
I just imagine, God forbid, it was my kid who was there or somebody's husband who died, and we didn't even bother asking. It's just beyond the pale. Finally, Senator, the president now says, Arizona, you can also vote by mail just like Florida, because Florida always gets elections so well, but a place like Nevada, you can't. How is this going to work, and how concerned are you that not only are we picking blue and red favorites as to who gets the vote in the middle of a pandemic via absentee or mail, and should I be worried that my postmaster general is going to screw with the election? We're not that far out. Where is your comfort level, and what needs to be done today to make sure that everybody gets a free and fair and safe way to vote in the election?
Well, I'm very worried about it for both reasons you raised, which is the president playing politics with the whole issue of vote by mail and absentee voting, and the post office issue. When it comes to absentee voting, the president of the United States casts an absentee ballot. So apparently it's okay for him, but he doesn't want others doing it. And vote by mail is just as safe as absentee voting. And many states like Oregon and Washington have had 100% vote by mail for years with zero fraud. So that's a total red herring. What the president is trying to do is undermine the credibility of the elections, discourage people from voting. We need to take this fight state by state. It's very important that we maximize the ability of people to exercise their democratic rights and do it safely. And that means maximizing vote by mail and absentee voting without excuse, and also providing safe early voting options and safe same-day options. Now, the post office is another real problem. We heard the Postmaster General just yesterday in a meeting with Speaker Pelosi and Senator Schumer admit that he had imposed changes that have slowed down the delivery of mail. Here in the state of Maryland, in Baltimore County, we're hearing reports about significant slowdowns and delays in mail, people waiting for days for things that they're expecting. They need to pay their bills on time or they're going to get penalized. So this is absolutely outrageous that in the middle of a pandemic and a few months out from the elections, they appear to be playing games with the post office. Now, again, the House passed HEROES Act that addresses both of these issues. It would provide another $400 billion to states to help with voting systems during the pandemic, and it provides additional resources to the post office so that they can continue to deliver things on time. But playing politics with the post office and electoral systems is something that we would expect to see in authoritarian countries. We have to make sure that we confront this issue, and everybody needs to get out and vote. I mean, you just need to get out and vote, try and vote by mail early, but get out and vote.
Senator, I wish you the best of luck. Sure sounds like you're going to need it. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you. Good to connect with you.
And up next, everyone, the prophet of politics. He'll join us with his latest prediction as to who's going to win in November. Now, you ought to listen to this guy more than me, because unlike me, he picked Trump winning in 2016, and he's picked a whole lot more other than that election. Professor Lichtman has correctly predicted every single presidential race since 1984. He's got his pick out for who wins this November. You'll want to hear that next.